The Cockatrice Boys by Joan Aiken, Chapter 3. For various reasons, it was just as well that Sana's first few days aboard the Cockatrice Bell were passed in the shelter of Manchester's Underground Railway Station, to which roomy, if gloomy, refuge the train had been shifted under the cover of dark. Why don't the trains start off and go somewhere? Asked Sana, puzzled and a touch dissatisfied on the first morning. I thought trains were supposed to go swizzing all over the country. We're waiting for orders, Aiken explained. The Bell's an army train, see? We've got to get a message from the Commander-in-Chief up to London town afore we can take off. Who's he? General Gug Pennington. So why the pies don't he send off an order, instead of having the troops eating their heads off in Manchester? Sana was extremely anxious to get away from the city, although no further news or information had been received regarding Aunt Floss. The time spent by Sana in her stuffy flat had been so shadowy and horrible that even a mention of it was enough to cast her into depression, and the possibility of ever going back there was not to be thought of. What did she do that was so awful? Aiken asked once. I don't want to talk about her, and, said Sana, I don't believe the baby Snark did do for her. She'd soon send it packing anyway, she asked. Why don't General Grug Thingamy send the Colonel an order then? Colonel Clipspeak can't get through to London. There's too much cosmic dust interference over London. Despite Sana's wish to get away, this had certain advantages. Just at present, there was so much stored up energy inside her, after years spent in her aunt's tiny flat with hands tied behind her back, that she might have found the cramped quarters allotted to assistant mess orderly female on the Cockatrice Bell no great improvement. But while the train was at a standstill, military rules were somewhat relaxed. The troops could play table tennis and snooker on Platform 1, while Sana and Aiken were permitted to race up and down platform 200s of times a day, until a bit of Sana's pent-up force had been dissipated. Bless her little heart, I only wish we could send her out on useful errands for wild garlic roots and samphire, remarked Mrs. Churt, glancing out the window as she brought in Colonel Clipspeak's mid-morning oatmeal muffin and cup of acorn coffee. Look at them, how they do scamper. It's a shame they can't go outside. But I see that wouldn't do, not with all those boojums and telepods fluttering around. Then Colonel Clipspeak had a practical idea. Issue the gal with a skipping rope, he told Sergeant Bellswinger. A skipping rope, sir? The sergeant was taken aback. I don't reckon that there's such an article on board, Colonel, sir. Well, use your ingenuity, damn it, man. Make one. Find something in the stores that can be converted. So a piece of cord was unwound from around a crate of Gorgon goggles, and handles were converted from some of the yet unused Hydra truncheons. There you are, chick, said Handyman Corporal Nark, presenting Sana with the finished article. What's it for? What do I do with it? Demanded Sana, gazing in bemusement at the length of rope with a handle at each end. You never used a skipping rope, you poor little commodity. Why, you skips with it. You does like this. Come onto the platform. He was about to demonstrate when Sergeant Bellswinger ordered, Here, you pass that on to me, I'll show her. Tall, stringy, bony, and red-faced, the sergeant had not manipulated a skipping rope in over 40 years, but the skill with which he had been accustomed to outskip his sister Lil on Stepney Green had not deserted him. He could perform on his right foot or his left, or both, double through, pirouette, and even achieve 2 cut-ups and a polka, meanwhile whistling Suppé's light cavalry overture. Sana watched, completely absorbed. Coo, she breathed. It'll take me years and years to do it as good as you, Sergeant. Wants plenty of practice, that's all, said the sergeant, puffing modestly, handing the rope back. Maybe once we're in motion, the colonel might give permission for you to use the observation platform. In the meantime, all day, every day, Sana practiced on Platform 2. In less than 48 hours, 50 more handcrafted skipping ropes had made their appearances up and down the train, and half the Cockatrice Corps were out practicing along with her. Not very dignified, eh, Sergeant? Said the colonel. Never mind, sir. It'll do 'em no harm, keeps 'em fit and their minds off things, said the sergeant. Just till you gets that message. for the cosmic interference between London and Manchester had increased to such a degree that as yet no orders had come through from headquarters. But one morning, Sana carried the colonel's breakfast plateful of bread and butter to his cabin. He continued to prefer brewing his own tea with the electric kettle, for he said Mrs. Church's tea was like doormat clippings soaked in Worcestershire sauce. But he did enjoy a piece of her fresh-baked carrot bread, thinly sliced and buttered with his tea. Sana, laying the bone china plate with its 2 paper-fine slices on the mahogany bedside shelf, suddenly cried out, "Oh, mercy, sir! Why, your kettle's a-talking to you, just like the one in my Auntie Floss's place, that is." "Well, I never—" "I heard nothing," said the colonel snappishly. Sana had woken him from an enjoyable dream of winning the regimental point-to-point on his grey charger battle-axe, long since, alas, rendered down into soup and snark masks. "What, pray, child, did you understand the kettle to say?" "It said, half a mo', now it's talking again, it's a-saying, Leicester Square Command Post, Gladiolus, 52063. Indeed? Cockatrice Bell, went on Sana. Proceed south to Willoughby-on-the-Wolds via Lincoln, where you will pick up the Archbishop Dr. Philip Wren. Good heavens, go on, via London, you said?" "At Willoughby-on-the-Wolds, take on board consignments, special trained German Gridlin hounds. They then reroute in a northerly direction, destination approximate locally of the Kingdom of Fife. More briefing for this mission will be supplied later. Do you receive me? Gladiolus, over, and out. Message ends." "God bless my soul!" bellowed the colonel, shooting upright in his bed and staring at Sana. His eyeglasses fell out into the bread and butter. "Can you repeat that?" he inquired, more quietly in a minute, picking up one of the slices of bread and butter, removing his eyeglasses from it, folding the slice into 4 and demolishing it in one snap. "Oh, yes, sir," Sana said. "I'm ever so good at learning by heart, because of all the time I was tied up in arties. I used to learn the phone book, for that's all there was." And she repeated the message to the colonel twice more. "What was it saying at the start when you first heard it?" demanded the colonel, beginning on his second slice of carrot bread. "Only the date," said Sana. "New Year's Day." "But that isn't today," objected the colonel. "That's the day after tomorrow." "Oh, I often gets a message 2 days ahead," explained Sana. "Auntie used to get real cross and upset, for I'd see the postman coming up the front steps on Monday, and then he wouldn't ring the bell till Wednesday." "Humph," said the colonel. "Most remarkable. You can run along now, child, but send Major Sconty and Lieutenant Upfold to me." By the time these officers had reached his walnut-paneled stateroom, the colonel was up and dressed and pacing about. He kept referring to a large relief map of the United Kingdom, which occupied the whole of the end wall. "Ahem, gentlemen, it seems the child Sana, as well as being able to see through walls, has also a proclivity of precognition. She can receive a message from GHQ 48 hours before it is sent." "Quite convenient, that, sir," remarked Lieutenant Upfold. "Most gratifying," said Major Scanty. "Too bad they ain't running the Derby these days," went on the lieutenant thoughtfully. "We'd all stand to make our fortunes." The colonel quelled him with a frown. "It appears probable," he continued, "that the day after tomorrow we shall receive instructions to proceed to Willoughby-on-the-Wolds via Lincoln, and then direct our course northwards once more toward the Kingdom of Fife in Scotland." "Scotland? Bless my soul! We should see some lively action up there, I fancy. Chimeras and chichavaches they have in those parts, do they not?" "Lincoln," murmured the lieutenant. "Pity it ain't the season for the Lincoln races." "The Kingdom of Fife, eh?" meditated Major Scanty. "I seem to recollect hearing about a great concentration of monsters in that region, as if some malign influence might be directing them from thereabouts. It has always been a queer cut-off region. The Firth of Forth before it, and the Firth of Tay above. The Firth of Forth below it, and the Firth of Tay above. And the Ochilus to the west. Those hills have always had a most sinister reputation. 6-legged beasts, you know, and queer things coming out of holes, though I believe the Scots are not troubled by snarks. The climate, fortunately, is too cold for them north of the Roman wall. Major Scanty was a thin, quiet, learned professor of zoology from Fishguard University who had been co-opted into the army because of his extensive knowledge and acquaintance with monsters. What they do have in Scotland and the north of England, he pursued, is an abundance of trolls and kelpies. Trolls have become a large-scale pest. However, very fortunately, they are only active at night. Kelpies may be encountered at any time, but on the whole, not beyond 10 miles or so from the coast, of course from lakes and rivers. The impressions of their feet are to be found in the red sandstone of Forfarshire, he told his colleagues. Quite so, snapped the colonel. No doubt we shall require different defences and methods of warfare against such beings from those required against monsters in the Midlands. That, however, can be discussed as we proceed on our way to Willoughby. Inquired Lieutenant Upfold diffidently. I suppose there's a station at Willoughby on the Wolds? The colonel threw him another quelling look from under bushy white eyebrows, and had recourse to the wall map again. Humph, he remarked, after a few minutes' intensive study. It seems that there is not, but there appear to be stations at Old Dalby and Nether and Upper Broughton, not too far from Willoughby. No doubt an expeditionary force may be dispatched from one of those. I asked myself why, of all locations in the kingdom, that obscure spot should have been chosen for the delivery of those animals. What animals, sir? Specially trained Gridelin hounds from Germany. Oh, gracious me, what a piece of good fortune! Exclaimed Major Scanty, his thin face alight with enthusiasm. I have heard of those, yes, indeed I have, and always wished to make a study of them. I understand they are sovereign in use against telepods and bicorns. Also against the much more dangerous beast, the Mercandole. Don't know the Mercandoles, remarked Lieutenant Upfold, studying the map. Are they a northern special, like trolls and kelpies? Yes, indeed they are. The Mercandole, you may know, a member of the basilisk family, has a tiger's body and the face of an elderly dyspeptic gentleman with long curling horns. It is particularly deadly, since the eyes have hypnotic power. But the Gridelin hounds, I have heard, are champion at running them down. What a superlatively lucky circumstance that we are to be equipped with some of these excellent and faithful canine quadrupeds. I believe I have heard they are bred in Hanover. From where, I wonder, and from whom have they been sent? No idea at present, said the colonel. The message didn't state. Now here's a knotty question, and I'd like your views on it, gentlemen. The two officers looked at him attentively. The message which the child Sonna passed on to me was dated New Year's Day, 2 days ahead of where we are now. Ought I to act upon it immediately, set out directly, or not? The colonel put this question in an extremely loud crash. As the colonel put this question, an extremely loud crash was heard overhead, and a few pieces of broken metal and glass were seen to fall past the windows on the station platform. Fortunately, it happened to be a period of the crew's mid-morning snack break, and all the men, as well as Sonna and Aiken, were aboard the train, partaking in watery cocoa and turnip crackers. "Bell swinger!" barked the colonel on the intercom. "What was that?" "It was a dive bomb attack by half a dozen snarks, sir," came Bellswinger's reply, "on the station roof at ground level. But they done themselves in. Not one of them survived. We got all the bodies, and I've a party of men up there already, sir, repairing the hole with brown paper and filler tape." "Tape? That won't hold them off long, men." "I know, sir, but it's all we got left. Stores are running low." "Very well, thanks, Sergeant." The colonel replaced the receiver on his house phone. "I think that settles it, gentlemen. We can't afford to remain here any longer. To keep on the move is our only hope of survival. We can pick up some more stores at Lincoln." "But can you get a message through to Leicester Square Command Post?" asked the major doubtfully, "to tell them your plans?" "That is what we now have to discover. Upfold, pry the kettle and switch it on. Pray fill the kettle and switch it on." The kettle, though convenient, was a chancy and unreliable instrument for transmitting and receiving messages. Sometimes, when boiling briskly, it would render loud and clear conversations between people or stations who were many thousands of miles apart. South Pole to Command Station, South Pole to Command Station, Tasmania. We are running out of herring. Over. Easter Island here, South Pole. I think we have a crossed line. No herring in this area. Only heads. Over. Capricorn Cancer area. Control speaking. We have no herring. Could let you have a few goats or crabs. Perhaps the kettle might perform better if the child Sonna were present in the room, diffidently suggested Lieutenant Upfold. As a small radio, you know, often works better if anybody is holding it. Possibly, snapped the colonel, vexed that he had not thought of this himself. Bellswinger, he ordered on the intercom. Let the child Sonna be sent here at once, on the double. Sonna arrived on the double, out of breath and with smudges of black on her face, and the pillow-ticking apron she wore over her army-issue dungarees. During her sojourn on the Cockatrice Bell, brief as it had been, she had already grown out of the tattered clothes which had been big enough while she was surviving on a siege diet. Sir, she panted, saluting smartly as Bellswinger had taught her. Why is your face black, child? Polishing buttons, sir. Oh, very well. Never mind it. Pray lay your hand over the handle of that kettle. Yes, sir. And we will pause there.